Oh, it is now on air. Just give it a few seconds and then go whenever you're ready.
Cool. Hello and welcome to the Out of Nowhere podcast. My name is Russ, and after a couple of weeks hiatus, I am back and hosting. With me this evening for episode 33, I have got Mike.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Very well. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm getting the feeling like I'm the Iron Man of the group. I'm always here.
You really are. You're like a dependable Dean Ambrose who wrestles a lot more shows than anyone else, but gets paid nowhere near as much money.
Oh. Now I feel kind of bad.
Just the two of us tonight. We've got a few absentees for work commitments and things like that. The real world getting in the way of our wrestling enjoyment as per usual. But it's been a pretty hectic week given today's announcements that we'll come to later on in the world of WWE. But first, we're going to start with a quick recap of Raw before we get into the juice of this week's episode, which will be the announcement of the SmackDown going live and a potential brand split. So, jumping straight into Raw off the back of Extreme Rules, which was discussed in our previous episode, which you should check out. Seth Rollins opening the show. Great to see him back. What do you think, Mike?
It is great to see him back. I do have one complaint about it, however. He's wearing a nice black suit with a black shirt, and he wets his hair, so he just ruins his suit.
Yep, completely agree.
What's up with that?
Yeah, it's I don't know what the obsession with every male wrestler with long hair has to have drenching wet hair. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like the thing I took away from it was, yeah, he had ridiculously wet suit and wet hair, and I'm like, oh, he's been gone for 200 days, he's out for 7 months, and the first thing I think about is how wet his hair is.
Weird tangent, but my housemate at uni used to do this weird thing where he'd get out of the shower and immediately get dressed without getting dry. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, and it reminded me of that.
What? Like, even when he was going out?
Well, no, he'd get out of the shower and then he'd come downstairs and his t-shirt would be soaking wet, and it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
That does sound weird. Why would you do that?
I've got no idea. We asked him several times and he didn't really have an answer for us, to be honest. But
he just went, that's the way it's meant to be done, right?
Yeah,
you are doing it.
He was surprised when we looked at him like he was the weirdo. back to wrestling.
He's now in a straitjacket, but apart from that,
could be for all I know. But yeah, it's great to see Rollins back and nice to see him opening the show. One thing that I was slightly confused, and probably most of the WWE audience watching, is he heel? Is he face? Because he was kind of a bit at the start. It's like, you're going to let me talk now, being really happy, and then he went back into his old bollocks to like, I'm the man routine. And this could go either way with the way he's entering a feud with Reigns. I mean, it just seems a bit weird.
Is in that enviable position of being able to do whatever the hell he wants and say whatever the hell he wants, and the fans are still going to lap him up.
Yeah.
So he can do whatever he wants, quite frankly. He is clearly the anti-hero. He is the hero to take on Roman Reigns, but he does not have the heroic qualities that you would expect. And I think that's exactly a part of it. He is a face, but doing the heel shtick.
He's up there with Kevin Owens in that regard.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly like that.
But yeah, I just think it was a great opportunity because he was begging to be a face before he popped his knee. You know, he came out at SummerSlam in brilliant white attire and things like that, and the hints are there. And I think he could do a really good job of it.
Do you think the brilliant white attire was a face kind of move? I took that as a completely, I'm cocksure, I'm cocky, I can wear white because I am the shining star of the WWE.
Yeah, maybe I've misjudged him, but I think maybe a double turn at Money in the Bank, something. Given that the announcement shortly after from Shane after his segment was that Roman Reigns will be defending the title to Seth Rollins, which will probably be a really good match. To be fair, I'm looking forward to it. But do you see any kind of turn there from either of them?
From Reigns or Rollins?
Yeah, or both even.
Nah, I think very much the status quo will just continue. I don't think anyone's going to try become one way or the other. They're just going to evolve naturally at this point. Roman Reigns will continue to be the not bad guy, good guy, but everyone hates him. And Rollins will be the shut up everybody, I'm the talking now, and everyone's going to love him. So, yeah, that's what's going to happen, I think.
Fair enough. Well, either way, it's great to see Rollins back, especially for me because I picked him in the fantasy wrestling. Bit of an off-air reference there, but I'm delighted to see him back.
I think I'm doing quite shit in it this time.
Well, you can't be doing as bad as Ollie.
No?
No, half his picks got released.
Stardust. We'll get to start. Can I just make a point of we need to rant about Stardust at some point?
Yeah, fair. We might as well jump into that now before the rest of the But the statement he gave out was certainly interesting. Kind of an insight as to why he's done what he's done. Because a popular guy, Cody Rhodes, and by all accounts a really nice guy, but feels like he's kind of been forced out by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Now, when the news broke, I put that he'd asked for his release, and I put up a post on the outoflives.net website, and I kind of put a little bit of my opinion on the end of it as to why I think it might have been, and I questioned perhaps maybe he'd either lost some love for wrestling since his father died, which would have been totally understandable, or even perhaps he didn't want to be Stardust anymore, and as it transpires, that's exactly what it was. I'm trying to just get his statement up now, but basically he been bashing on the door to be able to go back to the way he was as just Cody Rhodes, and they wouldn't allow him, and I just really don't understand why. I think that's the point, that it's a total. I just totally don't understand it. It can't be a misunderstanding if he's asked that many times, and he really goes to town on the head writers of SmackDown and Raw. I just think it's a huge waste of talent.
Completely agree, and it's not just the fact that they wouldn't let him be Cody Rhodes again. I get the impression from his statement that it was just the sheer frustration of he didn't get a reasonable answer as to why, like you said, and also he said the writers, were ignoring him, pretending to have typing on laptops that were powered off and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that would make anyone want to quit their job. So it just seems unprofessional at worst. Even if if they had a reason for him and a reason they could give him for keeping him as Stardust, like they had a plan, he might well have accepted that as what he's going to do. But given the way he was treated, I don't blame him at all. And I can honestly see quite a few other mid-card guys, well, not lower mid-card guys, maybe doing the same and not accepting shit spots. That they're better than that.
Well, he calls a lot of guys out in his post on his Twitter. He basically, the guys who are on the mid card for the most time, for the longest time, except for Kevin Owens, really. So he says guys like Cesaro, Zack Ryder, Tyler Breeze, KO, Harper, Kofi, Ty, and the Wasteland guys. Or most of them, except for maybe Kofi now because he's a part of the New Day. But for years, he was in that same category. And Kevin Owens, who's been on the top the entire time. Everyone else there has basically had the same shit, the same, you've got talent, we'll bring you up to the roster, oh wait a minute, we've got nothing for you. And it's no surprise. Let's just take one of those, Zack Ryder. I'm a massive Zack Ryder fan, but would you be surprised if he turned around and said, I am getting nothing here, so I'm just going to leave?
No, I mean, if I was Zack Ryder and they said, do you fancy coming down to NXT and working with this guy Mojo Rawley, I'd have quit then, to be honest. Just fuck that. But, I mean, they threw him a bone with the WrestleMania IC ladder match, and I don't doubt that he appreciates that opportunity. But binned off the title next night, and I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Ryder follow suit.
I really hope not. But it's come at a bad time, I think, for Cody Rhodes, given the fact that the brand split is coming up. I really think it could have been an opportunity. Could have been an opportunity for him, for sure. If one brand is, say, the AAA guys, it's your John Cena's, it's your Roman Reigns, it's your Seth Rollins, and then the other one is the more indie scene, like the SmackDown 6 used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
I think Cody Rhodes could have been the shining star there, What a better point to stop the Stardust character and go back to being Cody Rhodes? Because I don't know about your opinion on Cody Rhodes before he was Stardust, because he certainly made a name for himself being Stardust, and he did such a fantastic job as him. But as Cody Rhodes, even when he first came really fresh, as part of Randy Orton's group with Ted DiBiase, he was great. He was green as shit, but he was promising, and you could see that from the beginning. And then he went and did the mask, with the dashing Cody Rhodes, and he just played it so perfectly. And he is so athletically gifted. I just really think it's a massive waste of talent. And if the writers of SmackDown and Raw didn't see that, then someone really needs to go bash their heads together to get their heads in place, especially if we're going to try go live for both shows.
Well, I think we'll get to the full story later, but it does sound like there's going to be a bit of a shake-up on the writing side, at least on SmackDown's side. It's interesting, look, the timing of it. 'Cause maybe Cody Rhodes, he would have been up for the brand split, and it might have afforded an opportunity, but perhaps he was just so dead against being Stardust anymore that he wasn't willing to even try that. But either way, it's unfortunate because, like you say, he was a talented guy. He was certainly one that could have done something had he been booked properly, had he been written for properly. And even though he made the most of his gimmicks, it ultimately didn't work out for him. But never say never in the WWE. It's not impossible that we'll see him again if things change in the future.
For sure. And I just want to point out, I've now a defunct show, but one of the if I wasn't sure on him beforehand, one of the very best things I ever watched him do was his character on the JBL and Co show for YouTube. I don't know, did you watch that at all, the JBL and Co show?
It's not something I've seen, to be honest.
I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. They're all on YouTube. Go watch them. They're fantastic. And Kim Barrett and Cody Rhodes, specifically those two guys who, what's that? They've just all left this month. What a shock. Totally underutilized. And in that show are amazing. Funny, got a massive range. And it just goes to show that when they get let loose to do their own shtick, that they have more creative ideas in them than the creative team put together.
Well, I think New Day are a case in point there. They've kind of taken a crap gimmick that was given to them, made it work, and now they've sort of got carte blanche to do whatever they want. So it's proof that if you let guys run with ideas, it can be a massive success. So it's really disappointing to hear that doesn't necessarily happen as much as it could.
Kind of goes against the grain that what you hear though, isn't it? Where people say, "Oh, we want the guys to take. No one takes a risk anymore." Well, if they're not getting the okay to take a risk and get rid of a character that a lot of fans are a fan of and a lot of merchandise is behind, if that's not a risk that they're willing to take, no one's going to take a risk because they're not going to be allowed to.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand that premise anymore. I always understood it previously, where maybe they didn't want to go down a certain character route because they thought, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to pull that off," and that's where the risk is involved. But if you've got an idea and creative won't let you, then what else can you do? I'm now confused about the whole "you need to take a risk" idea. Maybe it's obviously not being in the business. I don't know what options you have, but. It's just a sad situation.
Yeah, completely.
To see him leave.
And moving on from people that have been drowned in the mid card, next up on Raw was Sheamus. He's dropping like an absolute brick since his brief title run and feud with Reigns. Money in the Bank qualifying matches were a big theme of Raw. First up was Zayn and Sheamus.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, continue. You might as well tell us what happened in the match.
Well, I was just going to say it was a good win for Sami Zayn. Regardless of the fact he might be sinking lower and lower down the mid card, but still a good win for Zayn against an opponent you don't usually see him against, sort of a bigger guy. Usually you see Zayn against similar people to him. Your Kevin Owens, your Nakamura is similar size, but Sheamus, genuine big fella. And
Kevin Owens is similar size to Sami Zayn.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. It's all in his belly.
Yeah, that's true.
But Sheamus is an actual unit, isn't he? So good to see Sami Zayn deal with that. And they both put on a good match, I thought, in the first Money in the Bank qualifier. What do you reckon to these qualifying matches? I quite like it, the format they had going on there.
Yeah, I do, and the best thing about it is something that we've been saying. This mid card area, or upper mid card, because they're not mid card, are they? This upper mid card area, the IC title genre. There's so much talent there that you could put any of these guys in a one-on-one qualifying match, and it's just awesome to watch. We had some great matchups this week, and although you probably wouldn't have chose Sami Zayn versus Sheamus as one of them, it certainly was an enjoyable match to watch.
Yeah, I think it was one Zayn needed as well, because he's been fighting kind of the same people since he came up. So to see him face someone different, I think he needed that, and a good win as well.
Yeah, the one thing that really annoyed me through the show, though, was that even though he got the victory, Cole just kept on droning on about how this was a massive upset.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it?
I think that's just Cole being overproduced, isn't it? Because they like to bill Zayn as, the ultimate underdog and all that stuff. So I don't think it is an upset because I kind of expected it, but I also think that's just a bit of overproduction on Cole's part. He has to say that.
Yeah, I guess so.
But then again, it wouldn't surprise me if Cole's just talking shite.
Well, that would happen 99% of the time. Just ask Kevin Owens, he'll tell you.
Yeah, and in the other Money in the Bank qualifying matches this week, we had the Intercontinental Champion Miz, who's actually, I'm really enjoying his title run, actually. He's not a massive fan of his character, but that's just his character doing his job, I guess, up against Cesaro, who I really wanted to win at Extreme Rules and didn't. But
yeah,
non-title qualifying match, Cesaro coming away with the win. It makes sense, Cesaro to go into the ladder match because the Miz will be defending the belt, I would assume, on the card at Money in the Bank.
Well, he's defending it on SmackDown now against Cesaro, so without looking at spoilers, we'll find out if anything changes there. But I'd totally expect the Miz to retain, and as you said, defend it against somebody. But the question is who, because then they're all going to be in this ladder match.
That's a very good point. But then the other ones, we've got Jericho and Apollo Crews. Jericho coming away with the win there. Apollo Crews attacked backstage by a seriously pissed off Sheamus.
Yeah.
And then we also had Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles. Now, this was I saw an interesting conversation around this on a wrestling Facebook group, basically. And someone made a point, I'll give him a shout out, his name's David, that is the kind of match that you should keep them two separate and build up to it, because that is a pay-per-view quality match, Owens versus AJ Styles.
Yeah.
What do you think to them having just a pay-per-view qualifying match on Raw? Do you think they should be keeping these kind of guys apart, or do you think that you just put the best matches possible together for Raw?
I can understand the merits behind that about keeping them apart, but at the same time, they're not going to cross paths much at this point. Their story arcs don't seem to be crossing over too much, other than the fact that there's a ladder match going on and they both want to compete for it. So I kind of like it. I kind of like the fact that they're not doing it, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did leave it, and in 6 months' time, the first ever Kevin Owens versus AJ Styles match, I think the hype would be a lot higher. I don't know. It's like getting a Christmas present that you know that you've already got.
Yeah.
Early.
Fair enough. I like the analogy.
And I'm quite happy to open that early Christmas present sometimes.
Fair enough. Well, either way, it was a really good match, as expected from those two guys.
Yeah, I was surprised though at how much that they let go, because we don't see often like AJ Styles 450 splash. His springboard 450. We don't see that often now.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I would have thought that they'd have put in their back pocket for a pay-per-view match down the line, maybe.
Yeah, and it was 16 and a half minutes as well, so they've got a lot of time.
Yeah, well, they're well versed with each other, aren't they? They've had some good matches, and you can watch. the first time I ever heard Kevin Owens shouting stuff about being a headlock master was against AJ Styles, and there's a match on YouTube. I can't remember what show it's in some little gym hall somewhere, and they put on a great match, and they lie on the floor for about 10 minutes with Kevin Owens just shouting he's the headlock master. It's fantastic.
Well, either way, Owens coming out with the win and going into the Money in the Bank ladder match. A lot of people tipping Owens to be the favourite for this.
Was you surprised that he got the win, or was you expecting it?
I fully expected Owens to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. What surprised me was, what do they do? Because I expected kind of AJ to be in it as well, but I wonder what they do with him now.
Well, I think the part of this story that we've missed here is the beginning of AJ's and Kevin Owens' match is that the club and AJ Styles seem to have disbanded at this point.
Good point.
So that's the storyline they're going to go down. I'm not sure how exactly that plays out, but I know that me and Chelsea specifically, and probably you and Ollie and Stephen as well, are just hoping it all builds up to a Finn Balor appearance.
Yeah.
Hopefully after June 15th.
Yes. So
because he needs to be in NXT on June 15th.
He does indeed. But yeah, that's possibly where it's going. I just think AJ Styles he's had a good feud with Roman Reigns, come out of it looking pretty strong despite not winning the pay-per-views. So yeah, it's just interesting to see what they do, given that he's now, not in the Money in the Bank picture either. One match I did miss by accident was Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
So Ziggler, he's referring back to our Lost in the Mid-Card discussion earlier. Ziggler, how much longer do you reckon he can hold out where he is? Because
I think he's transitioned to a different point now, hasn't he? He's no longer
putting guys over.
Yeah, he's the putting guys over kind of guy, and I would have totally expected at this point for him to have moved on from Baron Corbin and maybe gone to Apollo Crews, which would have been interesting given the fact that he's such a fan favorite. He could have gone to his heel persona rather than his babyface, which I think he's much better at doing. So I was hoping for that kind of, but he's continuing to go against Baron Corbin for whatever reason. I think it's overdone now. That's 4 matches. This will be 5th match if they go to a pay-per-view, which, let us be honest, will be another pre-show job. Yeah,
and a bit disappointed with Corbin's promo this week as well. Sounded a bit.
Oh,
a bit naff.
I thought it was one of his best ones. I suppose that says something about the expectations, though. I guess
possibly, or maybe I'm just being a bit overcritical. But Dean Ambrose coming out of that, going into the Money in the Bank ladder match. Now
he is tipped to be. Chelsea was saying the rumours in people who know is that Ambrose may be the one to be the Money in the Bank. How would you feel about that?
Well, I actually, straight after Extreme Rules, when I found out they were doing Money in the Bank qualifiers, he's my tip to win it, because I think with Reigns and Rollins being the title picture for the next couple of pay-per-views, you'd imagine there'll be a match at Money in the Bank and then a rematch possibly.
Yeah.
If Dean Ambrose wins the case, it sets up an instance where you've got Reigns and Rollins in a title match and Dean Ambrose coming in to cash in, and then you're getting that Shield angle on the match as well as the cash-in angle.
And that's not lost on the WWE either, because JBL said exactly that in commentary in Ambrose's qualifying match. So they're already teasing it. So it would certainly seem that that's the way to go. I cannot see Kevin Owens not being the Money in the Bank holder at this point, but it was all signs are currently pointing to Ambrose, which is.
If it's not going to be Kevin Owens, then that's the right thing to do with it. But I also think that if you give Kevin Owens that briefcase, the way he talks and the way he acts, it works. It just works with Kevin Owens.
It's giving him that prize that he needs, such as the title, but without having to have a title.
Yes.
And he can hold that. He can hold that for as long as he needs to. He can hold it for 200 days, 270 days, 364 days if he needs to. Give him that. give him that briefcase for as long as he wants.
But I also sort of know that everything you ever hear coming out from backstage is that the guys at WWE who make the decisions absolutely bloody love everything and everyone involved with the Shield. And those three guys, you know, if you look at the pushes people have got and the effort that's gone into the characters, you know, they do get a lot. And it wouldn't surprise me to see those three guys in a title picture together.
No, it wouldn't surprise me either. I don't know. I don't know why, but I don't really want to see that. I don't know what it is. I think it's just too obvious. I think that's my problem. It's too obvious of a move to go down. But I don't know. Once it comes around, I'll always be open to a change, and I'll probably be all for it. But I just don't like WWE being predictable. But then again, this could all change anyway.
Yeah.
Given what's coming up. So
exactly. Well, the last couple of points I'll take from Raw before we move on to the big news this week is Charlotte getting rid of Ric Flair. Bit of a fallout there. Ric Flair in tears backstage. So there's that. And Enzo's back. So they're two of the points that I take away from Raw this week.
How vicious, with her words, was Charlotte Flair?
Yeah, she was savage, wasn't she? But maybe there were tears of happiness from Ric Flair. He's like, yes, I taught her how to be the best heel she could possibly be.
But while I was watching this, my thoughts were how much of what she's saying is 100% genuine, and she's finally being able to get it out, and she's got the cover of being able to say, "Oh, it was just for TV," but really inside she fucking hates the guy. Yes. Because he has ran away for 30 years doing whatever he wants, starting profiling, exposing himself on an aeroplane.
The script had 3 lines, but she made it last for 10 minutes and went to town.
Yeah. Ric Flair's actually breaking inside because he knows it's real, but under false pretenses.
Awkward card your own.
Yeah.
And that's it's interesting. I'm kind of glad to see Flair out of the picture there because I just want a women's title match to have a clean finish. Please.
Yeah.
Please, at some point.
I'm not even going to go that far. I want it finally have a women's title match that finishes without any kind of influence from a man.
Yeah.
If it's Dana Brooke who gets involved next time, that's fine by me. As long as it's not something that's Ric Flair oriented.
Fair enough.
He has been the protagonist in all of this women's title so far. Every single match.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the next one because he ain't going to be there unless he comes back for the other team.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen.
He puts Becky Lynch under his wing and starts managing her. Creepy old man.
Yeah, he really is. So yeah, that was Raw this week. Mainly Money in the Bank qualifiers. Enjoyed the matches. Rollins is back, which is always great. And Ric Flair in tears, so you don't get to see that every week. But,
it was a great show.
No, it was an enjoyable show. Much like the shows we've had in the last few weeks, where they just focus on the wrestling, really, which is always nice.
Yeah, there was no, apart from Charlotte's, there was no in-ring promos really that lasted too long. So I'm all down with that.
Yeah,
it's all about the wrestling. Let's watch more wrestling in wrestling.
Yeah, completely agree. But moving on to the big news this week that broke this morning. If you're listening to us, that's a Wednesday, and basically there was an announcement posted on Facebook in the form of a short video from Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon, where they announced that SmackDown will be going live on a Tuesday following Raw, and they were pitching the kind of characters they would need, loose references to themselves, in terms of a general manager for SmackDown. So that insinuates that a brand split is to follow, something we've spoke about before in the pod between us, I believe, saying, it's a possibility with Shane coming back. What's Vince going to do when he decides who gets what? Something we've kind of touched on and maybe predicted. But what are your thoughts on this, Mike? Do you think it'd be a positive thing if that's the way they go?
Yeah. I think it's needed. I think there's far too much talent for one show to have. Far too much talent for one show to give enough to. if you know what I mean. The guys who we are saying are on the mid card who just don't get any of those accolades because of who they are, compared to the 15 top sellers, of merchandise, which is going to get TV time. So hopefully we are going to see those more beloved but lesser used wrestlers now that we've got more space. My question is though, is SmackDown? Do you reckon if they go live? Well, no, they are going live on Tuesday. Will SmackDown be a 2-hour show compared to Raw's 3-hour? What do you reckon?
Everything I've read so far has stated that going forwards there'll be 5 hours of live TV per week. So that would say to me that they're not going to change Raw, and SmackDown will retain its 2-hour format.
SmackDown's going to kick ass, man.
Yeah, I genuinely think that a 2-hour SmackDown, if they get the sort of the talent right on each show, if you got to. Another question I had that kind of feeds into this a little bit is what do they do with the title scenarios? Because you're in a situation where there's 2 shows but only enough titles really for one show, but you don't want to be diluting the pictures by having belts all over the place. So do you have the Intercontinental focus mainly on SmackDown? Sorry,
Sky.
TV channels
Could only be.
Yeah. But do you think that the SmackDown becomes essentially the focus on the Intercontinental title, and then, like you say, your main guys are on Raw, taking up the AAA show, if you like? How do you think that'll work out? Because that might influence, the format of the show.
For me, I think there's only one way this can really go down and go down successfully. But the things they need to do, and one of them is have 2 major titles again.
I don't necessarily agree, because I think when there were 2 belts previously, it was never really clear which one was it was clear based on the booking, as in the main event of Mania had a certain belt in it, but I just think it kind of devalues both of them if you have 2. I think you need to have one focal point of this is the champion, this guy, just this guy.
Well, I understand that. At the same time, if you don't have a main champion on one of them, then automatically the B show. You know what I mean? So SmackDown is in everybody's mind is the B show to Raw, and that's totally understandable. But if you don't give them a title, a major title, then it is WWE is saying that that's the B show as well.
I understand, but I also think this is my issue. I don't necessarily have an issue with the decision they've made, but my issue with a brand split in general would be that if you do that, then you're keeping guys apart that could potentially be putting on great matches. So if you've got a champion on SmackDown and he only defends the belt to people on SmackDown, and a champion on Raw who only defends the belt to people on Raw, you're not necessarily seeing the matches you want to see. And I think that's kind of the double-edged sword of something like that being in place.
I do like your idea though of the Intercontinental title being the main title, because I still hold the Intercontinental, I've said this many times, as a really important belt as to where you are in the roster.
I agree.
And if that is the title to go for on the main show, on the SmackDown, let's say, then that would certainly give it some real power behind it.
And I also think
who's gonna get into wrestling though just to be the Intercontinental Champion?
It's a good question, but the way I see it is if depending on how they draft it, if that's what they do with the Intercontinental title, if you've got, for example, people like Cesaro, Zayn, The Miz, probably not Kevin Owens because he probably belongs in a higher picture if we're looking at it that way. But if you've got guys that are in the higher mid card as it stands that don't get the time we want them to get, if they were going for the Intercontinental Champion, that's probably going to be more entertaining to me than watching Roman Reigns fight Randy Orton. So it might well be the B show, but I actually think that in terms of wrestling fans, it might end up being more entertaining than the main show.
Well, that's exactly how it worked out in the past, wasn't it? With the SmackDown 6, with Heyman and Benoit and Angle and Guerrero and Edge and I forget Kurt Angle and the sixth who I've forgotten. They weren't the A team. You know, it was definitely the B show. They were left to their own devices, and Paul Heyman got on with the writing and the leading the way there. But was that the better wrestling show? You absolutely better believe that it was the better wrestling show. And if we get that on SmackDown now, from July, I'm all for that. The question is just how to make the championships work, I guess.
Yeah, and that's I could see the company going either way. I would personally prefer it to be sort of the Intercontinental, not the Intercontinental show, but I prefer that to be the main focus, like your main objective as a SmackDown guy.
It's just gonna be weird though, isn't it? If on Raw you have the main event being for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and then the main show on SmackDown is going to be for the Intercontinental title.
But I don't necessarily think that you'd see the two belts getting, defended on air quite as much.
It's an interesting one, isn't it?
For pay-per-view. Yeah, it's this is kind of what my reservations were about brand split. How do you work this out? I think it's great that more guys will get more time, but at the same time, you kind of want the prizes that are in place at the moment to retain their value. And I think having two main belts dilutes both. But that's my angle of looking at it.
So, what other things do you think that the WWE need to do to make sure that this works out?
I'd be interested to see what they do with the tag division, because you've got maybe 3 or 4 that you could realistically say could challenge for the tag titles. I don't think you've got enough to fill 2 shows with the tag division. So maybe you have the tag division entirely on SmackDown. I don't know how you work that out. That's a strange one. I'd be interested to see what you think about that.
Yeah, I haven't put too much thought into it, but at the minute, the tag team division is healthier than it has been for a very, very long time. So what have we got? We've got the Wyatts, although missing in action at the moment. We have the New Day. We have Enzo and Cass. We have Simon Gotch and Aiden English. We have the Bullet Club, or whatever they want to go by these days. We have the Dudleys. We're on to 6. We have Breezango. Not Breezango. We have the Golden Truth. Although with Stardust leaving, there's rumours that maybe Goldust would still leave as well. We have the Lucha Dragons. So we've got 7 there.
Of those 7, how many do you think would legitimately?
Wait a minute. We've got 8. We've got the Social Outcast.
Yeah, but they're never going to win a match ever again.
Very true. How many of those would make legitimate tag team champions?
Yeah, I mean, the New Day have obviously demonstrated that they can put other teams over and carry a reign. But of the other tag teams there, how many people do you think could do, play a similar role to the New Day now, as in retaining interest in the division whilst really being the focal point?
5 of those teams would definitely be able to do that. Who did I say? We've got the Dudleys, who are totally underutilized, maybe transitioning into a different role at this point. But if they come back to the WWE like they have done and don't ever get a title, I think that's going to be a missed opportunity or a travesty.
Yeah, especially as they're on 9 as well.
Exactly. Just make it a perfect 10.
It doesn't even have to be a long reign, just like even a transitional one, just to get them number 10.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I suppose if they have separate tag titles and they're on one show, they can be the inaugural champion.
Possibly, yeah.
That's a possibility to get it rolling. Simon Gotch and English, the Vaudevillains, they could definitely be a champion, although heel tag team, as soon as a heel team gets the tag team titles, I know it's been a long time since we've had it, I've worked so hard to make sure this wasn't the case now, because they obviously started as heels. But as soon as the tag team that is heel has the title, the fans seem to just totally lose interest.
Yeah.
Be a real face team to go against them. Well, a really good and well over face team.
Fortunately, we've got Enzo and Cass, so I suppose they could fill that role. But I know you don't, Mike, but
everyone else
got this week. Everyone seems to love him, even though he's only had like 5 matches on the main roster so far.
No, everybody had that reaction every time that Scotty 2 Hotty did the worm.
But we're not doing this now, Mike.
We don't have time for that.
So yeah, the tag division was an interesting one to work out, as is the women's division. it's a healthy division at the moment. Although I think there are certain people on there that we don't see enough of in that women's division.
Absolutely.
Sasha Banks. But how do they work that out? They've only recently bought the new belt out, so they can't go splitting the division up already, I don't think.
No, we could end up with a case where the tag titles on one and then the Divas are on another, women are on the other. Sasha Banks is out currently with what seems to be a concussion problem. That seems to be why she's out. I think we covered that on our pay-per-view recap show on Monday. So that's possibly why she's missing in action at the moment. Still could be good for SummerSlam though, so fingers crossed there. Yeah, if the women get split, then
there's a problem.
I think more than there is a problem because you can't bring that butterfly belt back now.
Yeah, no.
Have Divas on one side, although you could 100% have the Total Divas Championship.
You could, but I don't follow Total Divas, so now the Bellas are both gone. I don't know how many of them are left.
Who is there? There's Natalia. There's Paige. Is Fox on it? I literally the only episode I watched was the one that Chelsea made us watch for that show that never happened because it was a drunken ramble. That is the only one I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because there's some ridiculously good female wrestlers in there at the moment, but if you scratch away at the surface a bit and drop 2 or 3 of them or split them up, it kind of reveals itself as a shallow pool to an extent.
Yeah, 100%. You just have the same 4 women wrestling each other on a week by week basis.
Yes, which I don't think anyone was.
Which I suppose is all we get really now. But if they were all on one show together, where it has been there's less people to take the spaces, they can certainly get a little more exposure.
Yeah, completely agree. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of unanswered questions at this point. My thoughts on the brand split. You've just said a few. I mean, overall, though, do you think it's going to be a positive move?
Do I think it's going to be? Yes, I do think it's going to be a positive move. I think it's long been required at this point, especially it's all this influx of successful talent from NXT. That's I was going to say that's the problem. It's not. It's not so much a problem, is it really? But the very first time we started talking about this on this show was from a rumor that perhaps a brand split would happen and that Triple H would lead SmackDown on a more NXT kind of centric show. If you give me that, I am all over it. I don't know. I think it is going to be positive, and as long as they get the talent split correct.
Yeah, that's the big qualifier.
I think they're on to a winner. But I suppose that we'll have to wait and see about how they split their talent.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting, and it'll kind of give us an insight as to where they see the wrestlers on the card, if you like. It'll kind of give us an insight as to what WWE think of their own guys based on where they place them from here on out, which will be interesting.
But the question remains, how would we split their talent?
Well, I was just about to move on to that. So if we were to do a bit of fantasy drafting here, first up, who would you have as the general manager for each of the shows?
Well, which show do you want to take? I want to take SmackDown, to be honest.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll take Raw then.
Yeah, sure. I think it would be right for you to get the first pick. So
that's clever because we now need to think of answers, don't we? So who are we saying's in line for these general? I reckon it's a straight shoot between Steph and Shane.
Oh, well, that's what you would think of, wouldn't you? But I'm going to throw in a few names in there for you. You can have Steph, you can have Shane, you can have Paul Heyman, you can have Eric Bischoff, and you can have Donald Trump.
All right, well, straight away I'm going to take Heyman for Raw then.
Oh, you bastard! I would definitely have taken Heyman for Raw. Did I mention Triple H?
Yeah, I believe he did, and if he didn't, but he's on the list anyway because he's kind of been that authority figure in the past, hasn't he? So it'd make sense.
And then if I could have anybody, I would love to. I'd love to have Triple H running SmackDown.
I'm assuming that's qualified by saying it's NXT's Triple H as opposed to the authority's Triple H.
Oh yeah, 100%, yeah. But draft means nothing because no way is Triple H and Paul Heyman running show and Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon just completely gone.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is just a bit of fantasy booking, fantasy drafted. But I'd love to see Paul Heyman back in a position like that again because
it would be good, wouldn't it?
He's just outrageous.
He'd have to leave the Beast's side though, wouldn't he? So
yes, he would. But I'd rather see him somewhere in a position where somewhere where they can make better use of him week in, week out, I guess.
Sorry, I didn't catch the end of that.
I was just saying, I know he's attached to Brock Lesnar, but this is just a general point about Paul Heyman. I'd rather see him in a position where he can have more an influence week in, week out, just because he's great.
Yeah. I totally agree. Although I'd love to see Eric Bischoff back as well. That'd be fun.
It'd be fun, but
I was a massive Eric Bischoff fan. In fact, I think I called for Eric Bischoff to come back on our very first show. I remember that. It was certainly, if it wasn't number 1, it might have been 2 or 3. I've been calling for it for a while now.
At least you've been consistent, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so if we've got your general manager sorted, on to sort of your singles wrestlers.
You won round 1.
Yeah, well, I think, as soon as you said Paul Heyman, it hadn't even occurred to me that he was an option. So, yeah, I'll take that.
But I should have kept it quiet. Damn you.
But yeah, in terms of sort of top tier talent, it's interesting to think who's going to go where in reality. But do you want to take this one first as the first pick of the managers?
Yeah, totally. I will take the first pick here, and as Triple H is my manager, he's going to take the guys that he likes. He's going to take the people who are Triple H guys. And there's only one man that can be coming over to lead SmackDown as the face of SmackDown, and that is one Seth Rollins.
It's a great pick. Yeah, I know they made a big deal of it in a kayfabe sense, but it genuinely is, a key role of the future of WWE for the next however many years he wants to be there. Really,
without a doubt, without a doubt, they love him. Absolutely love him.
Well, my first pick for Raw, because it's someone I also see being a massive part of the future of WWE, would be one Mr. Kevin Owens.
Oh. Not taking Roman with the second pick.
No, because I think he's a cunt.
You're picking this all right. You're picking with your heart and not with your head.
I'm not, because I think Roman Reigns he's got his place, but I don't necessarily think. What my feelings on Roman Reigns are strange, because I don't dislike him in the ring. He's a big guy and he plays the big guy quite well, but he needs so much work on his character and his mic skills that I don't think he should be anywhere near a long title run at the moment.
Roman?
No. He can stand there and hold a belt up, but if you put a mic in his hand, it all goes to pot.
Yeah, he still just repeats the same promo every week, doesn't he?
Yeah, and there's no emotion in his voice. His character's so bland. He needs a new theme tune. He needs new ring gear. He needs a new everything. Whereas Kevin Owens, he's dynamite on the mic. He's great in the ring. The crowd love him. And if you put the title in his hands, I don't think you'd hear many complaints. So he'd be one of my leading guys.
I think you're absolutely right with that. But back on you now. Pick 3. Who are you going for?
Pick 3. Who am I going for? Well, because he sells a ridiculous amount of merchandise, and you can put him in any kind of match and he'll probably perform quite well, even though he divides the crowd. I'd have John Cena.
Ah, you bastard. That was my next pick. He was going to be my next pick.
And he's coming to. He's probably not far off on the wind down on his career. You know, he's been at the very top for, you know, the best part of over a decade now, and he's the perfect kind of guy you want within your brand to start putting talent over when he reaches that stage of his career. So, yeah, John Cena.
Well, I can't argue with that pick. It's a perfect pick. But if I'm going through SmackDown and I'm going to try and make it a return of the SmackDown 6 kind of era, I think there's one guy who would definitely typify that, and that is Sami Zayn. He's one for the future. Rollins versus Zayn is something I would happily watch forever. I'm going to go with Sami Zayn as my pick for that one.
Fair enough. That'd be interesting because you've got Owen and Zayn on opposite sides of the fence there. So
I don't know about you, manager over there, but I'm going to propose to you maybe down the line a pay-per-view, and we have SmackDown versus Raw, and we after about 3 years down the line and they've been separated, we have Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn once more.
Champ v champ.
Think of the money we've just drew there.
Yeah, Paul Heyman can sell it. Just give him the mic for 10 minutes and he'll sell out anywhere.
Yeah, he could. I want to see the interview that he'd get where he gets asked to sell a pen. Do the best you've ever seen at that.
Well, you'd be walking out of there with a pen and no money.
That's true. Right, for my next pick for the follow up after that, I'm gonna gear a little bit from the main belt, and I'm gonna go to tag team, and I am taking them as tag teams rather than separate wrestlers. I am taking the New Day.
Yeah, fair enough.
They are mine, and I have the hottest team in the world.
Well, you say that, but Big E's going to want to be a singles guy at some point. You'd have to manage that.
Well, I would. Well, Tripsler can do it. Trip's the man.
Well, I'm going to stick with my singles guys, and I'm going to pick Bray Wyatt.
It's an interesting pick. I think he's losing that draw. I don't know. Hopefully, he comes back from his calf injury, and he comes back, and he's just got 100% momentum behind him. He's got writing behind him. He has once again, because when he is that way, he's so good to watch, and the character's so interesting. Can just get ruined by writing.
Yes, completely agree. When you write a character like that, you have to write it properly, otherwise it just falls on its arse. But
you've got the follow-up pick now.
Well, I'm going to actually go away from the main title picture, and I'm going to go to the women's division.
No. Sasha's mine.
Oh no, she's not.
No.
Sasha's the first female pick for Raw because why wouldn't you? She's outrageously talented, good on the mic. She's ready to go straight away. Injury aside, she's the best in the biz. So
she's absolutely the best in the biz, and you can't argue with that. That's a perfect pick. That you've got Sasha. I'm going to leave the women alone for a little while, because Sasha was going to be my next pick, followed by another woman to go against her. But I'm going to go back to the singles competitors at this point, and I can't leave him there. He's the top dog at the moment. I'm gonna take.
Fair enough.
We may not like him. He may currently be boring, but if there's anyone who could really train him up, probably Paul Heyman. But I haven't got him, so I'll just have to stick with whatever Triple H is doing at the minute.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially if you're putting him in with someone like Rollins. They've already got history there, so it was kind of writing itself at that point. So
it is writing itself, and that ties itself neatly into my next pick. And while he's still there, I'm going to take Dean Ambrose as well while I'm at it.
So yeah, Shield are on SmackDown.
Exactly. I've got the Shield. Oh shit! I am writing. I am just making what this is going to be. It's going to be shit.
You reckon? I don't think there's any way the Shield end up on SmackDown in an actual brand split.
Oh no, not a chance. If anything, my current squad is going to be on Raw.
Yeah, if we could switch our list here and we're there because my next pick is going to be AJ Styles.
Oh no! The only one that's out, the only outlier that we've got here is Zayn on my list rather than on yours.
Yeah. So yeah, I think AJ Styles he can work with almost any opponent. He's good on the mic. He's just brilliant. You know, he's fits in well with someone like Kevin Owens. They could have a ridiculously good title feud, I think, between them. You can make him work in a match with Bray Wyatt. You can make him work with anyone. So why wouldn't you have him on your roster? He's kind of a universally. You could plug him in anywhere into any situation, and he's going to give you what you need. So, just a really great guy to have around.
I definitely agree with that. Anything is your follow-up pick now for the next round?
Well, I'll probably best start grabbing some tag teams because at the minute there are no tag teams on Raw. So I would take.
Well, I'm actually going to I'm going to throw you a bone here. You took Wyatt. I'm going to give you the Wyatt family.
Okay.
So you can have the 4 of them.
Okay.
If you include Strowman still.
Fine.
Unless you split them up, I just don't see that happening. There's no reason to do so. So you've got the family. You've got the Wyatt family.
Well, you've stumped me now. Right. Who else do I want? Well, I'm going to take because in any brand, either way, we say the mid-card guys are going to get more time, but either way, there's still going to be a hierarchy to these shows going forward. So you're still going to have you guys at the very top and you guys that. I mean, Raw's still going to be 3 hours and they've got less people to work with. It'll be interesting to see how that works as part of the brand split. But you're still going to need the guys to fill time on the shows. So I'm actually going to take Dolph Ziggler.
Ziggler?
Yeah, because he's
a workhorse.
He's an absolute worker and he can put younger, fresher guys over, as you say, like he's doing with Corbin right now. Like, you know, we might expect him to do with someone like Apollo Crews. So I'd get him on there because he puts the miles in, he puts the effort in, and he puts on good matches, even though, you know, he's not the force he was creatively a couple of years ago.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with those points. I can see why he picked him. But as you didn't even think about Paul Heyman running the show, I think you're being a little narrow-minded here. And my next 2 picks will show you the way to go. And I am picking, in any order you would like to take them, Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Well, I didn't realise we could just pull people out of NXT. Yeah?
Of course we can. We can pull anybody you want. It's a draft.
Fine.
Thinking outside the box, I'm taking the 2 of them and I'm making a super show.
Oh.
Although that now leads that you... I'm not really thought this through. You could go and take the women now. From NXT. Damn. I've left the women open for you again.
Well,
God damn it.
Well, I get 2 picks now, don't I?
You do.
So if we're dipping into NXT, then Bayley, well, immediately, because I've already got Banks. So.
Bayley and Banks again.
All mine, motherfucker. Eat them ratings. And I'm going to take Samoa Joe.
Good pick. Forgot about Joe. I forgot about the champ. I forgot about him.
So I can imagine someone like Samoa Joe. This brand split is actually a really good opportunity for someone like him because you could put him into either side of it, and he'd be a credible threat to anyone on either show. I mean, you could see him feuding with anyone really. He's great at a feud. He's got that just pissed off face all the time. So you can implant him into when he comes up from NXT, either of the shows with anybody, and he'll make a feud of it. He'll make it an entertaining one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He does. He has the angriest face I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know. He must be great at Christmas. Like he opens up his presents and he's just got this fucking seething rage on his face.
His kids are like, "Dad, don't you like what I got you?" He's like,
I love it.
He's just. Does he have any kids? I don't know even.
I don't know.
No, a question about the draft. Are we gonna see it like this, where Stephanie or whoever the general managers are just going pick by pick? I would love to see them doing this, something like this. Or do you think it's going to be that stupid randomizer on the Titantron?
I think from a TV perspective, the randomizer's a little bit better for an audience. I don't think it's better in the way that it makes any sense. I think it's better in the way that you can put a big screen up and then you can have a little countdown and then a name comes up and everyone goes, "Wee!" So I think from a TV entertainment perspective, the randomizer kind of works, but it doesn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I would much rather see Shane and Steph sit down. Well, not sit down. Shane and Steph cut a promo where they basically agree that one takes one takes the other, and then draft it like we did, because that'd be brilliant.
It would be fantastic, and that would make up an entire 3 hours of Raw.
Oh God,
we could throw in a match every now. Oh, that'd be great. You take turns having a pick, and whoever you pick, they have to face off against each other for the next match.
That would be ridiculously good, but that's such a good idea, it will never happen.
No, because you could end up with AJ Styles versus Bayley.
The Big Show versus Paige.
Don't be stupid. No one's picking the Big Show.
That's
But
a very good point.
I'm glad you brought up my girl Paige, because Paige would be my next pick. She's my first woman. She's my champ. If I get a championship at this point, who knows? But Paige is the girl, the most underutilized wrestler in the entire company, in my opinion. So I am taking her, and she needs somebody to fight, and I think she would have a fantastic fight against Asuka.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, I think they would have a good fight. It'd be one of the stiffest work matches ever. But
Yeah, it would. But that's the kind of brand I'm building over here in SmackDown. I don't know about you over there.
My people are actually just gonna wrestle.
Oh, wrestle! Well, we're gonna fight.
God, yeah, you got a stiff looking. You got Nakamura in there as well, just kneeing people in the head.
Yeah, Nakamura, Asuka, Paige. He can deal stiff if he wants to. And the best thing about what I've done here is that you've got Heyman running your show. I've got someone who can don the tights and go back into the ring. I've got Triple H.
Yeah, but he can't cut a promo like Heyman, can he?
He can. Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. He can still cut promos like the best of them.
Especially when you can.
Anyway.
Well, I was going to say, when you consider my next pick to add a bit of pay-per-view sizzle to the roster, I'm going to take Lesnar.
Ah, nicely done. You can have somebody once in a blue moon,
yeah.
Unless you're going to redo his contract. But
he's got the history with Heyman, so Heyman can be like, Kevin Owens, you've had this great title run, but I've got someone I want you to meet. Bosh, out comes Brock Lesnar.
Well, I'm certainly liking the lineup of your roster at the minute, and I think we should finish at 10 picks. So we're going to discount the GMs as a pick. We currently got our GMs and 9 competitors. Okay. Who are you going to round out your competitors with? You've got Kevin Owens, Cena, Wyatt, Family, Sasha Banks, AJ Styles, Ziggler, Bayley, Samoa Joe, Lesnar, and your final pick is?
My final pick is Cesaro.
Cesaro? That was not a name I was expecting to come out of your mouth.
Well, there's a hierarchy, and someone's got to fill time. he's there with Ziggler, mid card. He's not. You could put him in a title match, and I think he'd do very well. He's kind of one of them one size fits all superstars who can do your house shows, do your wrestling, do it very well, put guys over, be put over. You can do anything with Cesaro. So he's kind of a universe. He's like I don't know if you ever played Football Manager. This might be a bit of a weird reference for the listeners, but he's the kind of guy who can play right, left, and centre.
Yeah. I'm totally with that. I'm totally there with you. Yeah, absolutely. And if he can play that attacking midfield centre role as well, just to really cinch it up.
Yeah.
Cesaro, yeah. I mean, like his 5 languages, he could do 5 different roles for you. So
There you go. You can do all the European tours.
that, mate. I tell you what, you can even bring back the European belt.
Yeah. Just
Which I don't know if you've watched the Tell All interview with Mick Foley and Shane McMahon, but they reference the European title.
Oh, that'd be interesting if they. That'd be a sort of a decent alternative if they do have the 2 shows, 2 belts for a belt for each. Bring the European title back as the second belt on one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like that, and I would condone that on my SmackDown. But I think the way they brought it up, it might have been more of a jokey kind of way. Yeah. My final pick is a tricky one. I want to throw out some, possibilities, some mentions, if I may. Charlotte.
Yep.
She's obviously the women to beat at the moment, but I'm not going to pick her as good as she is. All the other top guys would have really gone. So Charlotte would have done. Paige, I've got Becky Lynch is one that I really think I could have put up there. Rusev and Lana, you get the both, I guess. Rusev and Lana, I love them. I think Rusev's awesome, and on the same token, The Miz as well. For any of those, despite all of that, I'm going to go for someone who we haven't seen for a little while, someone who's injured, someone who is a bit questionable because he's got issues with his body or his head. I'm going to take Randy Orton.
Yeah, I completely forgot about Randy Orton. Good pick.
I'm going to take Randy Orton, and I'm going to take him in the view to completely take him back to his legend killer kind of days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't want him to be
the brooding
this
emo kid.
I don't want him to be this softer, crowd friendlier, pumping up the crowd kind of guy. I want him to be ruthless. I want him to be the concussion. I want him to be putting people in the head. So that's what I'm going to pick Randy Orton to round out my roster. I've got a problem that I only have one tag team. But I'll get them in.
That's right, they can fight each other.
I'll get them in the supplemental draft later on. So your team of ran by Heyman, Kevin Owens, John Cena, the Wyatt family, Sasha Banks, AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, Bayley, Samoa Joe, Brock Lesnar, and Cesaro, against my roster of being led by Triple H, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, The New Day, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, Paige, Asuka, and Randy Orton. If those 2 rosters that we've just read out and picked there in half an hour, you're crazy. Those two shows would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, they really would, and I think it highlights just the depth that they're working with at the minute. You could mix and match probably any number of these, and you still have equally as good cards to work with on either side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can make a hell of a Survivor Series match out of that lot.
Could you imagine? I mean, as I said, that's not even including some of the top level mid cards, such as Rusev, such as Miz, such as Enzo and Cass, who are so hot at the minute. I think, if anything, this exercise that we've just done has pointed out that there is so much room for success with the brand split.
Yeah, I just hope whatever they do, they get it right and don't have. I'm trying to articulate my thoughts here. I just hope they don't bollocks it up to the point where nobody wants to watch SmackDown, or nobody continues. Everyone continues not to want to watch SmackDown. When was the last time you watched SmackDown? Made a point of watching it.
Oh, well, it might have been this year. I genuinely have no idea.
But I just hope that they manage to build it to the point where they're 2 shows that you want to watch, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of guys lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
is the point I'm trying to make.
equally as much as we've just said these are two great rosters for us to go with, there's equally as much chance that they will totally fuck it up. So let's hope it's more of the former than the latter. But I think that just a little exercise, just pointing out just how promising this could all be.
Yeah, and it's also marks the start of my get Paul Heyman back into the limelight campaign.
You didn't even realise he was there.
But
I gave you.
Now I know he's there. It's all I want.
Ah, you bastard.
Yeah, get Paul Heyman back in power. Bring him back.
Yeah, that would be so sweet.
Because seeing him every 6 months when Brock Lesnar decides to grace us with his presence, it's not enough.
He's totally underutilised, but he has a lot of projects ongoing, doesn't he? So he's a busy boy. Anyway, I think that's us done for the day.
Yeah, that was good fun. That was hopefully the real brand split reflects some of the quality that they've got in the roster. So that's your lot for this week. A lot to talk about. We'll be following up next week with a regular episode again. Maybe a few more others next week, so that'll be good. But for this week, you've had myself, Russ, and you can find me at Russ Pointing on Twitter. Mike, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DjangoBob96. Also, check out our website with all our other podcasts. We keep mentioning it, but it is super good and loads of good articles, wrestling and gaming, which is basically what we are, wrestling and gaming website, movies as well. So if you like any of that, please check out our website. It's outoflives.net.
Cool. And you can find us at Out of Nowhere Pod on Twitter if you want to get in touch. And that is your lot for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you next week.